Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Chris Stock. I'm the CEO of SalesMD. We're a consulting and training company focused on helping medical practices convert leads into patients. I'd like to welcome Pat Altavilla, President and Chief Executive Officer at Suneva Medical. Pat has been with Suneva Medical for nearly 4 years, and prior to her current role, she was the Chief Operating Officer. Pat has also held leadership positions with Zeltic, Bioform, MERS Aesthetics, and Mentor Corporation. Suneva Medical, I think they're well known. I think Pat is incredibly well known in the industry, but Suneva Medical are shaping the future of regenerative aesthetics with Bellafill, Pure Graft, and HD PRP. So for me, it's a real privilege and honor to have this opportunity to interview you, Pat, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's always been nice. I've always enjoyed our encounters.
They've always been fun. And I've always come away with more understanding of this industry and your breadth and depth and knowledge. I'm cognizant of the time we have, so I want to just jump straight in. And we are where we are with this crisis, but just getting in it from your perspective, what's it been like for you over the last few weeks with everything that's been going on?
I will admit, on a personal level, it's been really crazy, very unsettling, because one just is not accustomed. This is not my lifestyle. Sitting still is not how I function. So you can well imagine that being someplace for 7 straight weeks without being on a plane, a train, or in an automobile somewhere is really quite a transition. So like everyone today, I'm sure we're all on the emotional roller coaster of when does this end?
What's the biggest challenge that you have as a leader right now?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges any of us are experiencing is trying to keep our teams focused on positive, trying to ensure that everybody sees the light at the end of the tunnel, and they're praying to goodness, all of us are, that it's not the train coming in the opposite direction, but that we can really see the vision post-pandemic and really can articulate and visualize what happens next. In a really uncertain time, you can imagine that's a challenge. And I always look at my little business. I have 111 employees, but I always say I have 111 families I'm responsible for. And I feel very responsible for doing the right things to ensure that there is a business thereafter the pandemic.
Yeah, and I love the way that you talk about the family as a business, because we spend so much time with our colleagues and I think that's always a good sign of a good organization. And I think, again, that's probably why I've always enjoyed sort of working with you, is that sort of family feel to everything you do.
It's important, I think. We're a small enough organization. We're privately held. We really do believe in the future of our company. But like all small companies, you're challenged with the economics of this. And what do you do next? How do you make sure that you navigate the water, get out the other side, and have a formidable business? And honestly, I'm really quite excited about the other side of this crazy pandemic and how do you manage it. But I feel very optimistic that we'll come out the other side in a much more robust position than we actually went into the pandemic.
Yeah, these are scary times for business owners and businesses, but so often I find, with having been a consultant now for 15 years, that actually sometimes it's these times, these external influences that actually sharpen us up as leaders, sharpen the business up, get focused on what are we doing, who is it for, etc. So
I would agree. And I think it does. These will always, I have this very firm belief that 90% of life is what happens to us. 10% is how we react to it.
Absolutely.
And maintaining a good attitude through it and really trying to be a true leader and keep your team focused and organized on the most important things.
I totally agree. I love that sentiment and love that sort of that position. So Suneva Medical, clearly a leader in the industry.
I think
Um,
so.
I,
No, but we think so.
I think so too. What are you doing as the CEO in terms of leading your organization to maintain and strengthen that position?
Well, it's a fascinating question. We're a privately held organization, and as a result of it, we are, it's been a little company, and it's been a little company for a very long time. We were a single product company until January of 2019. And I'm happy to say that that was the transition that we made into regenerative aesthetics. And we've really qualified our position in that market. And that is that we are the facial regenerative aesthetics experts. And therefore, all of the products we bring into our portfolio will be focused on facial aesthetics. So today, we have 3 products in our portfolio. As of May 1st, we will actually have a 4th product in our portfolio. And before the end of the calendar year, we will have 7 products in our product portfolio. So on the other side of COVID-19, it will be a really different looking company. All of these products are focused in facial regenerative aesthetics. So it's very exciting. And it's a very exciting opportunity for us to get to the other side of this and do what we know to do.
Love it. So in amongst everything that's going on, your product team, your product marketing team is 100% full on, and we're a week away from a product launch.
Correct. Yes, I tease myself and my team every day saying, okay, you guys, we don't have time to think about the pandemic. We have to stay focused on what we're doing as a company and bringing the products online. Yes, we're very exciting, especially in this time, because we were actually able to bring on 5 additional employees that we brought on from Sinclair Pharma, which is the company that we're picking up their product Instalift. And we will be the exclusive distributor of this product in the United States and Canada. So we're very excited. And yes, we're very busy getting ready for that launch. And then several more on the heels of this one. So
Fantastic.
Focused and moving through getting ready for this.
I think that's for me, that's been one of my takeaways is during this is we as businesses always have projects that are things that we need to do. In your case, it's more than just a project, but it's finding those things to really focus the team, ourselves in going forward and keeping that momentum in however you do that.
I agree, Chris. I think one of the most important things in trying to keep a team well organized and focused around next steps, and to not let them if you will, labor on the not so delightful part of our life right now, but to give them really good things to hold on to, is to really have projects like that. I agree.
Yeah. So changing it slightly in terms of now starting to think about the practices. I know Suneva Medical provides great support to your customers already, but what specifically are you doing to support practices during this crisis?
Well, it's a great question. I'd say probably 95% of our practices across the nation closed down mid-March. And so clearly we've been doing ongoing video training, both from a practice development standpoint. I'll say this, I'm far less focused on selling products right now, as you can well imagine. I'm more focused on what our customers need and what support we need to give them to help them through this, because no one person has gone through this challenge alone. We are all in this together. And so we've been doing product education for doctors that are interested in learning. We've done practice development webinars that we've allowed people to participate in. And last but not least, it's been a big focus of ours, is how do we get ready to deliver what we call the Suneva stimulus package? And we've been building all of the components of it to say, what do our customers need? We've been doing interviews with key opinion leaders around the country and really evaluating how they envision coming back to work and what they need to do to be effective at helping create a safe environment, not just for they and their staffs, but also for their patients. And our job is to facilitate that opportunity for them.
Fantastic. So, and that probably leads me into my sort of next thought process in terms of when things start to recover, what are your longer term plans in supporting your customers as we get back to the new normal, as it's being called?
Yeah, we don't know what that's going to look like, I can assure you. But it's fascinating. I believe as of today, we're seeing about 7 states start to open up. And as those states start to open up between now and mid-May, that number may change. It may go upwards, but between now and then, it's really getting our customers ready. We've extended payment terms for our customers to take the heat off. We're developing the stimulus program to help them be ready to service their patients and provide high quality products for their needs. But in addition to that, it really is just being sensitive to the needs of our customers. Many of the questions I keep asking our customers is when and if do you really want to see a rep walk into your office? Would you rather this be a phone conversation, a Zoom meeting, or some other form of engagement that allows them to focus on the day-to-day activities of their practice? We want to be there to serve them. We want to be there to help them develop their business again, but we don't also want to be in their way.
Yeah.
So we're being very sensitive to say, and how, if a rep does go in and make a sales call, does that look? Is it with a mask? Is it with a specific appointment? Many reps in this industry do what they call, sort of a flyby, and they'll stop by and say hello. Is there some other way we need to help our customers truly get their arms around their practice without interruption?
And what is sort of that, if it's not too confidential, because there's some probably insight there from that you're picking up, but what are sort of the trends that you're seeing from the doctors in terms of how they want it to work?
Yeah, I think everyone, of course, is recognizing that the number of patients that they bring into their practices will be challenged. They really will not have a lobby or a waiting room where people will be sitting side by side for weeks, minutes, hours, whatever. They've got to really be coming in with a purpose to get a treatment and then to be leaving. And I think people are very sensitive to that, and rightly so. For the safety of themselves, their staff, and their patients, they should be. And so now the question becomes, and how do we physically help them get there? And I think a lot of it is, I think it's interesting. I lived through the recession of 2007, 8, and 9 in this industry. And while the dermal filler market did not drop substantially, it was a different set of circumstances. We didn't have as many people unemployed as we do today. We don't have did not then have the elevated fear of coming in contact with people that has definitely precipitated in the market in the last 7 or 8 weeks. So I think a lot of it now is, what does a general dermatology practice look like versus what does an aesthetic practice look like? How do you engage patients? Are you a single doctor in a practice, or are you a multiple physician practice? And then how do you start scheduling patients? I think this is going to be some of the landscape that our customers will be contemplating. And I know they're already thinking about it today. The question then becomes, what happens next? And what happens when you really have to put this into practice? How does it work? It'll be bumpy, I'm sure, as all new experiences are, but I'm certain he'll get through this. And I am certain we will be there, as you will be there, to really help the practices navigate through this very unique set of circumstances.
I think there's a good point you're making in terms of there's a plan, and that's almost the that's pretty hard to put together, and thinking through all of the elements to that. But then there's the implementation of the plan, and two people bumping in the corridor. It's like, what do we do? And these things need to be thought through and even rehearsed.
Right, and in and out of an office. Is there a different waiting area for certain patients versus others? I think it will really challenge people to think through their space and their space requirements differently than they have in the past.
Yeah. So you as an individual are regarded as a leader in this industry. And as you know, I'm still relatively new to the industry, and whenever I sort of meet anyone, invariably your name comes up in the conversation. So what advice are you sharing with your customers at the moment, in those one-to-one conversations that you're having?
Well, it's interesting. You're very kind, Chris. I always tickle. I like to say the only reason you hear my name that often is just because I'm old and I've been in the industry a long time. In reality, what we're really trying to do is line up our plan, our Suneva stimulus plan, with exactly what the customers are needing. And the best advice we can give people today is to just stay focused on their state and local requirements. And I think they're going to be pretty clear. It seems to be pretty broad across the country that masks will become a pretty commonplace for us, although a very rare thing for the United States in the past. It'll be a new evolution, and I think people will become more and more conditioned. At some point, it's going to be trying to take those training wheels off of people and getting them comfortable to be sitting in a space without a mask in the future.
Yeah. I've had a number of conversations that even, how long is it going to be before we just hug people and just shake hands, and,
yes.
And even that sort of basic, sort of interaction, it's going to take a while for that to just.
Sad, but
yeah.
really sad, because I think that's a big part of our culture. And it's a lovely part of our culture, I think. So cheers to the day that we can all go back to our normal.
Yes. Yeah. So what specifically should practices be doing right now?
Well, I think the most important thing that every practice should be considering is, what does it look like when the doors open again? I think in some states, we're already seeing people start to order products. So you're starting to see people really restricting the number of patients that they see in a day. And I do think that's going to be, right now, that should be where they're focused, is how many patients do you bring back? There is no question that there is a significant amount of pent-up demand right now. We've all had far too many hours sitting in front of Zoom. We've all had far too many hours sitting in our homes, that I think everyone is at that point where they're quite ready to go back. And if those people that are blessed to still have employment and blessed to still have insurance, this will be a really important thing. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad you think these are the challenges, right?
Yes.
I'd love for us to have people be aware of what pent-up demand looks like, because at point of fact, people are really going to have to be thinking through those laundry lists of, call it 1,000 patients that have been pretty routine patients to the practices. And they have to be thinking about how long it's going to be to really effectively treat those patients. How much time do they need? What procedures can they do in an hour's time? Do they bring one patient in at a time if they're a private practice? What does that do for their staffing needs? And I think there are many, many considerations that I think everyone's going through right now, trying to assess. And I don't expect anybody's going to have a perfect plan by the time the doors open, but I think people will have given a lot of thought. There have been a significant number of webinars and thought tracks around how, where, why people can start bringing patients back in and getting them treated.
Yeah.
The good news is there's a lovely demand for aesthetic medicine. And no
Yes.
matter how, right, it's hard to kill that demand, which is great.
Yeah. There is a huge shift in the economy and there's going to be huge change, but there's also a lot of people that are ready to sort of make that trip as soon as it's safe and it's in place to do so.
I would agree completely. And so it's being ready for them. And it's hard to gauge whether it's 50% of your practice comes back, whether it's 20% of your practice. I think those numbers will be dictated more by what state they're in and how adversely affected they were by the pandemic. And I think certain markets will take a little bit longer to come back up. I heard somebody say the other day, and there's probably validity to that, there's a range of ages where I think people may be a little bit more intimidated about going back out too quickly. And although they're suggesting it's the elderly most at risk or the people that are immune repressed, you are seeing a really wide span of patients that are contracting the virus. So it's hard to say, but I can see that there would be some anxiety of an older or immune repressed patient about coming back out. So I think a lot of it is just beginning to understand the demographic of the practice and really begin to understand. I do think one has to be very careful about how and when they communicate with their patients. I think it is just extremely important for our practices really around the globe to just simply express that they're available to help in any way they can.
Yeah.
Similar to how we feel about our practices. We're here for you. You know, I find it that hard to think that people are going to be out there doing marketing campaigns and driving patients in, because at this point, people are dealing with their own emotional activities and they will make the decisions when they're ready to go. I think people are going to be looking, especially if people are underemployed or not employed, they're going to be looking for promotions and discounts. But I think it's going to be a quieter way of promoting products than I think ever before.
I think you're making a very good point in terms of the timing, the balance to this, because I think if you promote too soon, and I come from the sales background, as you know, and but it really is, and my motto has always been about being of service, and that's what sales for me is about. So I think if we continue to be of service, I'm here, how can I help you, and the clients will tell us when they want us to start offering them some more things. They'll give us that.
I agree completely. I really do. I think they're out there, they want it. They want to know you're available and that your doors are not closed. And I think from a physician perspective, they just need to make people aware that they're there and what are their hours, and the schedule will fill.
Yeah. How do you see the consultation process changing? I know there's been a lot of telemedicine and that sort of playing its part right now. Do you see that continuing? Do you see a shift? What are your thoughts here?
I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to work for some segments of the market. I think it'll be really challenging to not really see the patient, to make a full evaluation. So it may be that telemedicine is the initial consult and the initial discussion. And then as people start really qualifying for the procedure that they're consulting for, that then there would be an active appointment to bring them in. Because I think doing, the old days of doing 15 consultations in a day is probably not going to happen in the way it has in the past. And I think telemedicine or Zoom or some type of communication line where people can really be evaluated before they come in might make it a more efficient practice.
Yeah, I think I certainly and I like the way you use the word qualify, because that's certainly the word I would use. And there's been a number of clients I've worked with where actually, even prior to doing that, we were sort of, I hate the word qualify because it doesn't feel right in this industry, but it is that sort of that first sort of conversation, first discussion with a potential patient before, you know, going to that larger expense of bringing them in and going through a more detailed consult. So I certainly see it as something that could come out of this as well.
Yes, I would agree. I think it'll be an interesting process, but I think it'll allow the physician to see more patients possibly over the course of time, as opposed to, and obviously there is still a schedule of patients that are people that are there. They're already in the practice. They're already having treatments. And so you do have to ask yourself whether or not those people will just start setting up appointments over the next, several weeks post the state opening. So, and I think those will almost be, you and I've had this philosophical conversation over the years, the concept of going deep before you go wide. And it may just be that actually taking care of the existing patient population is a good place to start. And then having the ability to go wider subsequent to making sure their existing patients are fully taken care of.
Yeah, we have had that conversation, and I totally agree. I think for me, I think one of the big things that practices could be doing right now, and I'm sure there's lots of them doing that, but just phoning their patients, just checking in, and just again as another way of just saying I'm here, but have that conversation, and do nothing more than, hey, we're here. Thinking of you.
I agree. I think it's the subtle selling, if you will, where it's just making people comfortable knowing that they have a place to go when all of this is over.
Yeah. So just coming back to you, also conscious of the time, you don't become the CEO of an organization like Suneva Medical by chance, but I'm also sure you've had great mentors and coaches over the years. And so just coming back to sort of the leadership lessons that you've learned, but what's the one lesson that you've learned, or that piece of advice that you've been given that stands out for you in terms of you being a leader?
I think one of the most interesting things that anyone ever said to me many, many years ago was the fact that there are no right answers, that you have to accept the fact that we're all guessing and that we have to do the right things. And what that means in my mind is for the company, for the employee, for the customer, for the customer's patient. And I live by that. I live by that motto every day. You do the right thing.
And I think more than ever now, as we come out of this, then what we're talking about right now really applies. There's no consultant out there that's been through this that can say this is the answer.
We wish.
They would be in demand right now.
They would indeed be in demand. There's no question. And I don't know. I sort of thought back through. If you look back to 1918 and the Spanish influenza, and we know that there's no adult today that was an adult back then. So we're really learning, and obviously modern medicine is far better today than it was in 1918, and that's a blessing. The reality is we have to continue to say, we really need to write about this. I've said that to so many people. Everyone needs to write the chapter on how to effectively manage through a real crisis, not just, people have crises all the time, and I always tickle thinking, really? But this is a real crisis, and one we have to really contemplate the best strategies through. And obviously there's no pre-established rules and regulations around what you do or how you do it. So navigating it is challenging, but it is definitely one we are all learning from. but may we never see one like this again.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Let's end it there. I think that's a very poignant point to finish. So, Pat, thank you so much. I've always enjoy speaking with you and glean information and insights. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated.
Chris, it's my pleasure. I've always enjoyed our conversations as well. So thank you very much for asking me to speak with you today, and the best of luck. Stay safe and stay healthy.
And to you.
Thank you.